Hello, I'm Michael Houston, CEO, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Terry Houston, who is the founder of Houston Consulting Group and Associates. And today we're so excited about our business empowerment series. Thank you for joining us today. We have a very special guest. We can't wait to have this conversation with him. But before we do, we invite you to subscribe today to our YouTube channel, and that's Business Empowerment Series by HCG and Associates. That's where you can find us on YouTube, and be sure to click the notification bell so you're notified as we're posting our future editions. You'll be able to listen to this one as well, and take time to listen to our past editions. We've had several guests on that will surely empower and inspire you by their stories, okay? But today we're gonna get right to it. Yeah. I tell you, this young man, we met him, I guess about 8 years ago when we first joined eXp Realty, and I remember when I first, not too many people I have to look up to physically when I see him, because I'm tall, but he's about 6'8", so I definitely had to look up to him. But I tell you, we had a lot in common. Just it was great meeting him. But this is none other than the co-founder of eXp Realty, and that's Brian Culhane.
Hey guys.
Hey, how you doing, Brian? Good to see you.
It's 6'7" with the spike 6'8". So
exactly.
We just know you're tall.
We just know you're tall. You know tall. But again, co-founder of eXp Realty, and eXp Realty is a global real estate company of over 31,000 agents and growing all over the globe. And so very, very honored to have you on today. Brian, how are you and the family? How y'all doing?
You know what? We can't complain, even though sometimes we still do. But life is good. You know, we're trying to, not just survive, but we're trying to thrive. So, just trying to take care of our health and our wealth. So that's it.
I know. That's right. Well, tell the wife you say hello. I know you got your boys probably in the backyard every day now at their home shooting hoops, huh?
That's right. I got the whole home gym out here. So
I know that's right. Well, that's a great place to start, because we're definitely going to get into talking about eXp Realty. Again, you are the co-founder of this great company that's been a life-changing to us, and many agents that come along on the ride with us over the past 8 years. But before that, and again, we're going to talk about the Exp Edge, but I know you know something about the competitive edge, your life before eXp Realty, and even I think before real estate. You played a little basketball in college, I understand, right?
I did. Played a little. Yeah, no, had a good run. Grew up in Chicago. Actually, it didn't start so great. I was actually cut from 7th and 8th grade. I thought I should have made the team. I was still one of the tallest kids out there, but for whatever reason, I didn't make the team. And it was kind of funny. My dad would take me to go play. He played at a community center called the Winnetka Community House. And it would kind of run in some men's leagues and some pickup games. And he would bring me over at night. And I was probably in 8th grade. And, and obviously I see what you guys are doing with your boys and what amazing basketball players they've become. And so my dad would, he'd sub out and he'd try and sub me in, and all the guys would be like, no, we don't want Brian to play. He's too young. He's too little. And he'd be like, no, he's playing. And so he'd sub out so I could get some reps. Yeah. But that started it. And then I played freshman B, worked my way up, got a little taller. And then finally, by the time I finished high school, we were, probably one of the winningest teams in our school's history. And went on to do some really exciting things.
Absolutely. And where did you play ball in college? Yeah.
I bounced around a little bit, so I'm kind of a journeyman. I am in business. I was in sports, and I ended up playing at 4 colleges in 5 years. Okay. So I started at Northeastern Illinois. Was a Golden Eagle. Okay. And I think it was interesting. It was in Chicago. We were not one of the top ranked teams, but it was a great group of guys, and these guys were just unbelievable basketball players. And so I learned a lot about life, and I went from being sort of the top dog in a top flight program to being the bottom rung of a struggling program. So it's definitely a rude awakening, but great experience. I ended up going to a Division II school up in, transferred to a Division II school up in Wisconsin. Okay. And then I finished at Bellarmine University down in Louisville, Kentucky. Okay. And I played for Bob Valvano, so Jimmy V's little brother.
Oh, is that it? I never recognized
Oh, wow.
name.
Absolutely. Great. But that's great to hear, because I definitely want to make the connection. We'll talk a little bit about, some of the things, valuable lessons that you learned from playing sports to how that translated into building a successful business and even helping to launch eXp Realty. And so talk a little bit about now, your transition from school and playing ball to, working and in getting into real estate and what life was like, pre eXp Realty?
It's funny. I mean, I was kind of a blue collar kid in a white collar neighborhood. And, I always say I grew up on the other side of the tracks, but it was a very affluent neighborhood. But again, my dad was, a limo driver, and he was an artist. He was a painter, but you have to have a job when you're, starting artist. You got kids, you got to pay the bills. And so he did whatever it took, limo driver. He was a courier. As I got older, he got into, got a Series 7 and got into securities and trading. But I always say I was raised by a starving artist. My brother was raised by a stockbroker. So he's about 13 years younger. But it was funny. I probably was a sophomore in high school, and my dad pulled me aside once and he said, "Brian, if you don't get a scholarship, we can't afford to send you to college."
Wow.
And I think I had like a 1.6 GPA. I was hanging out with some troublemakers and, ditching class and messing around and going and fighting under the bridge at lunchtime and, whatever. And it kind of snapped me out of it a little bit because you just didn't think those things when you were a kid. And so he said, "You better get a scholarship or otherwise you're not going to college." And so then we ended up transferring. They moved. My parents moved quite a bit. I think I did the math the other day. I think we lived in 15 different houses by the time I finished college. And people often said, were you military? And I said, no, they were just renters. so parents, buy a house, be a homeowner. It's easier on your kids.
I know that's right.
But all that moving and changing and having to learn and make friends fast. I mean, I think that stuff's all come into play lately. But the transfer was good for me. I ended up going to a school where, they valued going to class and getting good grades. And I ended up having some the sons of some famous people on my team. Doug Collins' son was playing with us at the time, Chris Collins. And so we had a really awesome run, and I went from having a 1.6, I think I got a 3.5 my junior year and a 4.0 my senior year. And, but all the while, I was caddying, waiting tables, on the side just to make ends meet and have enough money to, take my date to prom or whatever. But I definitely learned the value of hard work. And I was watching what these successful parents and these people that I was caddying for were doing. And I remember thinking, I want to be like them. I want to emulate them. I want to study them. And, I didn't resent them. I didn't think, I wasn't, you get a little jealous, right? I think I had 3 or 4 friends with indoor basketball courts, and they'd get the cherry red convertible Mercedes when they turned 16. And I had like the blue, light blue, wood paneled station wagon, and
with the matching dents, Sound like my car, Brian.
I'd be like, "Dad, could you drop me off down the street?" I'm a little embarrassed, but and that's all true. But it really, it galvanized me. It taught me a lot about hard work, and I guess I figured out early if I don't make my own way, no one's going to make it for me.
Oh, I love that.
Love that. And I think life. Some things are taught and some things are caught, and it sounds like through you position yourself and working in different environments. I'm sure you caught a lot of lessons just observing those who are in positions maybe where you aspired to be, and it kind of led you to the success that you're having now. So 100%. Great.
And I think it was so key that you may not have known, and I know we haven't gotten to your full story, but you may not have known what you wanted, but you knew what you didn't want.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I did want what they had, but it's sort of like, you either got to do what they do or resent them and think they're the reason why you're not succeeding. And I guess I just didn't know enough to know what I didn't know, but, it was definitely, good coaching, good mentors. I think that I give a lot of credit to that over the years, just like you said earlier, sports and hard work and getting that work ethic was very valuable. As a matter of fact, when we get into the story, Glenn often would say, he hired me. Listen, I was hired out of real estate school. I hadn't even passed my test yet, and he made me his team leader. And he said, he liked that I played sports, and he liked that I had no bad habits.
I know that's right. You know, somebody once told me, hey, I'll take, you know, ignorance on fire over intelligence on ice any day. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's great. I like that.
Train them up and everything. So for those of y'all who don't know, Glenn Sanford is, you know, he founded, obviously, eXp Realty along with Brian here. So excellent.
Yeah, no, I was just lucky to be there. You know, I mean, Glenn was really, I mean, I recognized his mastery very early on, and I know we're going to get into that in a little bit, but that was really, I mean, he was probably, other than my father, he's probably one of the most significant male influences in my life, and certainly in my business life, 100%.
That's absolutely. That's wonderful. And I love that you said he saw something in you and said you didn't have bad habits, because it's something about being able to take a risk with someone, you know, who's brand new, these newer agents.
Right.
And we're seeing that we're attracting those
we
new
are.
agents.
We are.
So to hear that, you know, Glenn, and we all know his brain and his mind,
right.
for him to see that and for him to take a risk to some degree.
Right. For big risk.
Right.
Well, no.
Big reward.
Big reward.
Right.
Exactly.
Bigger the risk, bigger
and
reward.
I think that's why we're talking to you, because
right.
there's a lot that you bring to this picture. There's a lot.
Thank you.
Yes. So let's transition and talk about, you know, how did you, in terms of getting into real estate, we know you had a lot of success even before eXp Realty. So talk about your transition, you know, from all the odd jobs and everything in school to landing into eXp Realty and to success you had, and then transitioning into co-founding eXp Realty.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so after, you know, 5 years worth of philosophy and political science and theology, and I took a couple ceramics, you know, when they're paying you to go to school.
Brian.
I didn't take underwater basket weaving, but I did take some horticulture and some ceramics classes. But but listen, you know, someone else was paying for it. You know, it was all good.
Yeah.
But listen, I wasn't like a math major. I should have studied computer science and business and, you know, all that stuff. But I was sort of math illiterate at the time. Ironically, as I got through, you know, 400 level philosophy classes, a lot of it was Euclid and Pythagoras and a lot of the early mathematicians. And if someone would have explained to me that math is more like lifting weights for your brain, it probably would have made more sense to me. But of course, like every other kid, I'm sitting there going, what do I need to know, algebra for? When am I going to ever use this dumb stuff? So I kind of had that, you know, preconditioned programming. But, you know, as I got out of college with those degrees, I earned myself a waiting job. So I started waiting tables and, you know, kind of still hustling a little bit. And actually I caddied all the way through college. And you know, I do give that some bit of credit for my basketball career, because you know, I'm carrying golf bags. I was doing push-ups, you know, doing pull-ups from the trees, and you know, just whatever I could do. And so basically, you know, I was found myself as a salesperson, so I got into sales. And my first job was for an architectural engineering and environmental due diligence company, and I didn't even know what that meant. And
what am I selling?
and literally, he's like, well, here, he's like, here, go online and look it up. And I was like, well, we don't even have a website. And he's like, well, then make us a website. And I was like, all right. And, you know, so I started kind of figuring it out. And he literally like pushed the phone book at me and put a phone on top of it and was like, start selling. You know, I was like, well, what is even due diligence? And, but I made a go of it and learned. And he was an early mentor of mine and a business person and a good leader. His name was Bob Eklund. And then I got recruited away to go work for a commercial real estate trade magazine. So it was, at the time, it was Real Estate Chicago magazine. And they are part of a larger commercial real estate group. And so I started kind of getting, you know, cutting my teeth. And Bob used to take me on these sales meetings to downtown Chicago. And, you know, we'd be in the elevator of Northwest Mutual and meeting with CEOs and account executives and marketing people. And so I just kind of started to feel the hustle and bustle of the real estate world, and I got hooked. And then I kind of bounced around doing different commercial real estate ad gigs and helping publish magazines. And then I ended up leaving and took a job for a VIP hospitality company. So it was basically like the guys that put together the big golf tents for the Ryder Cup or whatever. And that was the true boiler room experience. I mean, they'd have 5 salespeople in an office, and it was like one call close. If you got a hot lead on the phone, you had to put them on speaker so your manager could come close them. And so I'll never forget, I got like my one hot lead, you know, and I had a pretty good, database full of contacts that were kind of in the similar marketing space. And so I said, this is a friend of mine. Hold on. And all they wanted me to do is fax them the price sheet, right? They're like, just fax us the price sheet. We'll take a look. And my manager was just like, put him on speaker. And I'm like, I got this. And she was like 3 or 4 years younger than me. And, who knows what was going on there, but it was a little bit of a boiler room, like I said. Well, anyways, I went to fax it and she comes up to me and she goes, don't bother faxing it because you're blank and fired. And I was like, what? Wow. My first lead. And so they fired me on the spot. Okay. And I said, that's it. And it was probably like February, Chicago. I probably hadn't seen the sun in 6 months. I worked in the shadow of the Sears Tower. Wow. I was taking the L. I was up before the sun came up. Right. Home when it was dark. Happy hour every night. I mean, even in Chicago back then, if you weren't a smoker, you were smoking, right? Because everybody's smoking in the bars, everybody's smoking. Yeah. So I just didn't feel great. I was kind of run down, burning my candle at both ends. And a buddy of mine said, hey, I'm heading out to Arizona. Do you want to go with me? And I think he had just come back to get his car and some stuff, and he was going to road trip across the country back to Arizona. And I said, sure. So I literally ran to the unemployment office, got some unemployment. I don't know. Is the what is that? Is this okay to say publicly? But I was continuing to collect unemployment even though I moved out of Illinois. I think we're past the statute of limitations.
I think so.
About 16 years ago. But I literally coasted into town on fumes. I mean, I had all my possessions in a hefty scent sack. And I was checking my email at the public library. And one of the first things I started doing was swimming, hitting the gym, laying out in the sun, just trying to get, feel better again. Cause I really wasn't feeling great. Right. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to go to real estate school. So I used to take brokers out to lunch and they were building $50 million skyscrapers. And I was spending my last $50 so I could make a $60 ad commission. And I'm like, something's not right with this equation. I want to be on the other side of the table. So I wanted to be the broker. And so I went and got my real estate license. And while I was in school, I ended up meeting 2 very important people. The first being Christy, who became my wife, and she was in nursing school. And then I ended up responding to a Craigslist ad, and it was Glenn Sanford looking for a team leader to run his website here in Phoenix.
What a great ad to respond.
One of the most important ad.
Yeah. Did I nail it or what? Yeah.
That is
wow. Wow. So you meet Glenn, you're in real estate, you meet Glenn, and then what?
Well, so we had a couple meetings, and again, that's kind of when he said, hey, he liked that I played sports because I think he liked that I could be a leader and also a role player. Right. And he liked that, a big part of what he asked me to do very early on was recruit. Okay. And so that was always been a part of my mission statement for working with Glenn was, to recruit, grow the team, manage, close deals, rinse and repeat. And we did it. And he provided the framework, he provided the coaching and the structure, but really the thing that really he provided was the mindset. Even one of the first things he ever said, 2 of the first things he ever said to me, and I think you'll appreciate this. He said to me, I remember when he hired me, I was like, thanks, boss. And he goes, don't call me boss, call me coach. And I was like, wow, this guy's like special. He's a different kind of thinker, right? And then the second thing he said is, he said, Brian, he said, the first thing every real estate agent should do is think of a brand and call themselves the CEO of their own brand.
And that's so important.
And so he kind of taught me to have that sort of business person mindset. And real estate was just the vehicle that we were using. So I think there's 2 types of real estate professionals. There's business people that happen to be in real estate, and then there's real estate people that happen to be doing business. And I didn't want to be someone that was just chasing deals and feast and famine and only eating what you kill with your own 2 hands and so right. Is this ringing a bell?
That's right. Yeah.
Keep talking.
I know that's right, man. That's right up our alley there.
I know.
So that was it. He taught me to think like a CEO, and I'll even share with a funny little historical note. Long before Glenn was ever a CEO, his Twitter handle was CEO Glenn. And just the fact that he was putting it out there and just kind of manifesting his own destiny, and I just bellied up and studied up and went into his dojo and, teach me, master, and, and that's actually one of the few pieces of philosophy that I remember from college, was that the student has to seek out the master. And, when I realized Glenn was a master in many things and even just early signs of mastery, right? I mean, he wasn't the billion-dollar CEO that he is now, right? I mean, he's definitely evolved quite a bit in the last 15 years too. But I saw inklings of mastery and I could just tell he just thought differently. He just had a different way of approaching things and he was very self-taught. And if you know Glenn's story, he came from very humble beginnings and was surrounded by, poverty. And I mean, his dad had some successes and some big failures, which, kind of up the ladder, down the ladder.
Right.
But, that's kind of was very impressive to me. And he was also a black belt in martial arts. So I knew he had some skills.
Yes, right.
He could kill me with a toothpick.
I know that's right. Well, that's powerful. I mean, there's a lot of lessons, especially our listeners. I hope you're picking up on this. Just be humble and be coachable. And recognize that, when you're in presence and you have an opportunity to learn from somebody who's at a position that, where you aspire to be, just watch what they do and do what they do.
That's right.
That they're willing to invest in you. Don't take that lightly. Take that serious.
Well, and I think about that, we're both in the same business, right? We're growing our empires. We're building organizations. We're bringing in people. We're training them. We're coaching them. We're making them productive. Right. And I think about this a lot, but I mean, I don't know too many people that would say yes to a team leader position while they were still in real estate school. I mean, for me, it was kind of like, yeah, I'll take the job, whatever, I'll take anything. But I just didn't realize, but I bet if I offered that, and I bet if you back me up on this, I mean, do you think if we offered that type of an opportunity out of 100 people in real estate school right now, how many would take a team leader position?
Absolutely.
But I think your background and pedigree have prepared you for that. I mean, you bounced around neighborhoods. You played on different basketball teams. You played college ball on 3 different. I mean, you were used to challenges. There's no question about it.
No, that's a good point.
You had already been groomed for that. So
good point. And I really didn't have any other options. I had my back up against the wall. I just met this beautiful woman who, was kind of like, I see some potential in you, but like, are you for real? Or are you gonna,
Exactly.
So I was like, I'll take it. And I was actually still waiting tables at, when I was out here, I was training to wait tables at Eddie V's.
Right.
And I asked Glenn once, I said, what would you do? And he said, Brian, you can't serve 2 masters. If it was me, I'd roll up, you got to roll up both sleeves and get after it with both barrels.
Right.
So I quit the waiter job and I got my first rental commission. It was about $400 and I was like, okay, all right.
Right.
And then he taught me a couple other cool things. Like we would go out and preview homes for the leads. So I'd literally take my, the old digital camera and I'd go preview homes. And my first closing was actually an American teacher living in Thailand. And she bought the house sight unseen.
Right. Wow.
So then when I got that $10,000 commission, I was like, honey, we're rich. We never have to work again.
Of course. But that's awesome. Again, we appreciate your transparency and just, your background. And, a lot of times, I say, our fortune is, for a lot of people, their fortune is built out from their frustration, you know, and just life experiences, because they don't want to go back to that. They know how that was. But they have a vision for their life that they want to attain, and I mean, you can't coach somebody to do pull-ups on a tree in the middle of Canyon. That's not in the book, but that's in the genes of wanting to be successful. I may look crazy doing that, but hey, you wanted that. That was just regardless. They say crazy pays. Sometimes you just have to do the things that most people don't want to do to be successful. And that's awesome. And so talk about. This is what I want to know. What our listeners want to know is this. Talk about the moment that you and Glenn decided or came up with this idea of eXp Realty. I mean, it's like, you could have gone. I know, during that time.
All right. This is a good story, and most people don't know this story, so I'll share this now since you guys have kind of been there since the beginning. But so right around the time, so we kind of, as the story goes, we had started a traditional broker. We left Keller Williams. We were a very productive team. We had the #1 ranked website. We left Keller Williams and we started a brokerage called Buyer Tours.
Okay.
Well, it's a traditional brokerage, but Glenn was doing this in 7 cities around the country. So every expense for running one office, Glenn had times 7, 7 leases, 7 broker salaries, 7, everything
Right.
times 7. And we were doing well. We had the websites. He was a lead gen machine, and he hit some really great, we were converting well, but then the market crashed in October of 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And we had that kind of OMG moment, and everyone was like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And Glenn was hemorrhaging money. He was probably 50, 60 grand a month in overhead. And so we went 3 or 4 months without a single transaction. That's when we shut everything down. Wow. And that's when Glenn started to really look at his options. Now, in the meantime, and obviously we started, merging into the cloud office, the early, open quack stuff that we used to use. And so we basically, but before that, even there was a little bit of an interesting period where Glenn was being courted by this company called Connect. And Connect wanted Glenn to come over and they claimed to be a virtual real estate company. And they wanted Glenn to bring all his websites and technology and come over and be the CTO. And these were the brothers of the guys who started HP out of Dallas. So they were the Packer, had big money, right? And so they offered him a big stock package to come over, millions of dollars worth of stock. And Glenn's telling me about this. And I'm just like, okay, all right. What about me? And he's like,
that's right.
He goes, you'll do great over there, Brian. He goes, the model's great. You'll do great. Because what they basically had was they were an 80-20 split, and then they did 5, 5, and 5. So you got 5% off your front line. Once you brought in 5 people, you got 5% on level 2. And once you brought in 10 people, you got 5% on level 3. So it was 15% through 3 levels, 5, 5, and 5. And then the company always kept 5. And it was a great comp plan, right? I mean, this was the best gross commission revenue share comp plan that it had been out there yet. And, but they only had a website. They didn't have a lot of presence. I didn't see a lot coming out of them in terms of technology. And I remember saying to Glenn, and literally back to your comment about back up against the wall, self-preservation, right? I said to Glenn, what about me? He goes, you'll do great over there. And I said, well, listen, I remember I went to my wife. I'm like, oh my God, this is trouble for us. Glenn's going to cash in and we're going to, and I said,
go back to your pull-ups, caddy.
No, and this was literally, I mean, say what you want. And I don't, Glenn might have a little different version, but I'm telling you, this is 100% true story. I said, Glenn, I go, okay, they got a good comp plan, but we got all the technology. Why don't we just copy their comp plan and do our own thing?
Wow.
And he was like, let me think about that, Brian. Glenn, right?
Yeah, no. I look down.
Let me get back to you on that. But that had to have been a real powerful moment for him,
right?
To turn down that offer. And literally, I mean, it was like Moses coming down from, Mount High going, I figured it out. He literally disappeared for like 3 days. And Glenn never disappeared, right? I mean, our earliest cloud office was actually the Yahoo Instant Messenger. So that was like the first beginnings of us staying connected and collaborating over the cloud. And he would always if he was gone, he would always put busy, so you always knew where he was. Well, one day for like 3 or 4 days, he's just not on Yahoo Instant Messenger. He's not anywhere. He wouldn't take my calls, and I'm freaking out. And he literally, I'll never forget, he comes back in or something, or he calls me and he's like, Brian, I figured it out. And he unveiled the 7-level gross commission revenue share spreadsheet. And he was like, let me walk you through this. Yeah. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I figured it out. Because in his mind, for him to work out the problem, he had to see a deficiency in their model that he could solve. And so the deficiency in the 5, 5, and 5 model was basically, it didn't provide enough incentive for the top level to invest in the lower levels, right? So once I brought in you brought in Tara, once you brought in somebody else, I'm out of the money. I don't care who your people bring in anymore. I'm not going to help them, right? I'm only 2 or 3 levels deep. I don't care. So Glenn had this sort of 7 level, and then he also improved on it where instead of paying 15%, he paid out the whole 20%. Through 7 levels. And it was literally like Moses coming down with the golden tablets, like, figured it out.
I know. That's awesome, and I love it. And the fact that we're getting ready to fast forward to today. But
yeah,
when my wife and I joined back in December of 2012, when we came on board, we were agent 105 and 106. I just want to give some perspective. I remember Brian, you coming into the cloud office with our blockheads in there, and you were, running the cappers panel, which I know I was blessed to be part of that. And you were teaching the agent attraction classes.
No, it was that too, but it was also a CRM. It was like some sort of drip campaign class. Cause whoever was able to teach a class taught a class, right? We had education Thursdays, and sometimes it was just you and me in there, Michael. We were just sitting there like, where's everybody?
I got one-on-one time with the co-founder. I mean, man,
I'd be like, let me think about what we're going to go, I'm like, what am I going to teach you? So, you were already a top agent.
Man, and so when we came on board, we were like, man, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And we weren't a publicly traded company. We didn't have KB Core. We didn't have all the bells and whistles. Weren't on the NASDAQ. So let's fast forward to today, because one of our mission is to help our fellow agents in the industry build better businesses, to live better lives, and ultimately build their legacies. And there's, in our opinion, no other better platform and vehicle to do that than eXp Realty. So talk about the eXp Edge, Brian.
All right, where to begin? Well, listen, again, if it all goes back to, what is eXp in a nutshell? eXp is really Glenn Sanford's ultimate real estate system. He created a system for himself that would provide him a life after sales. Because if you think about the history of real estate, there's really there's sort of two classes, right? There's the owner class and there's the member class, and the members serve the owners, right? And what do the owners get to enjoy that the agents didn't? Well, they got three things, in my opinion. I mean, they got a lot of things, but they got three core things. Number one, they got to own. So it's in the word, right? They got to own a piece of the asset, whether they own the whole thing, maybe they were part of a franchise team or they're an operating partner, whatever it is, but they got to literally own a piece of the business, at an asset. The second thing that the ownership group had was they got to participate in the revenue. So in other words, every time a transaction got done, they got a little piece of it. And the third thing, and might be the most important thing, is they got to scale up their business. Glenn would say there's no problem that can't be solved by adding 4 more agents to your brokerage. Well, that's kind of what the mindset of the owner group was, is, hey, let's just, if you needed more money, bring in 5 more agents. If you wanted to get bigger, open up another office across the street, whatever it was, down the river, whatever. And so, but if you were an agent and you were struggling, what did they tell us to do?
Sell
more houses.
Right. Sell more.
Go work harder.
Right, exactly.
You're not working hard enough.
I know.
And so here we are.
On the yellow phone book.
Right. Here I am showing houses on Christmas morning, to make that rent check, they're sending their kids to college and they're driving around in the Ferraris, and I'm sitting here, doing all the work. So what's really, we talk a lot about eXp being a revolution. And you talk about, is it a tech revolution? Is it a compensation plan revolution, which it is. And I would say yes to both of those. But honestly, I've been using a different term to describe what Glenn did. I think of it more as a reformation. And so if you think about, and again, this is my theology slip is showing, right? But,
college in the class, and you were learning.
I got to tap into that education somehow. Right. But if you think about Martin Luther, what did he do? He ultimately took the tools of the elite, right? The clergy, the priest class, right? They didn't, back in the day, you didn't get access to the Bible. They wouldn't share it with the people. You had to go to church to hear what was in it. You had to have it translated through. And a lot of times it was even in Latin, right? You didn't even know what the guy was saying, or so it was sort of like the elites were telling you what the word of God was or whatever. And then Martin Luther came along and he's like, hey, if this is for the people, we should all have access to it, right? And so that's when the printing press had just come out, and he mass produced it, and he went up and hammered his 85 theses up on the front of the church, and he said, I'm going to give the Bible to everybody, and everyone can figure out what the word of God is on their own. And so that was the Reformation period. Well, I think very similar. If you think about what Glenn and the rest of us have created at eXp, it's we've taken the tools of ownership and we've given them to the average agents.
I love it.
I love it. And that's powerful. And again, it's been a blessing to our family and the many agents who've been on this journey with us. And just and talk about just what you've observed. I know even in your own story, I know you told before how I think you were in a bike accident, and how this eXp Realty and what it offers as far as the compensation benefits that had really blessed you in that situation.
I mean, that's, you know, I'm blessed to have broken my hip at such an early age, right? I'm fortunate. And, you know, I took a bike ride around the block. It was a very hot September, early September. It was probably 1 o'clock in the afternoon here in Arizona. Went around the block, was getting a little cute, you know, the competitor coming down the hill, thinking I'm going to, you know, do a little kick out, little bunny hop off the curb or whatever. And I went head over heels, landed all 285 pounds right on my hip. And I heard it pop. So I broke the femur. I broke the ball off my femur. Wow. And now here I was on the sidewalk, or actually I was on the middle of the street, and the asphalt had to have been 125 degrees. And so I was like, I'm burning. Oh my God, my leg hurts. Oh my God, I'm burning. Oh my God, my leg hurts. So I went to get up and my leg didn't go with me. And so I had that kind of, I mean, like white flash bulbs, and I thought there were buzzards circling, and, you know, I didn't know what was going to happen. And long story short, you know, they ended up pinning my hip. That meant I couldn't put weight on it for 9 months. I had a walker. I couldn't get out of bed for months and months. And this was in 2011. I mean, we were only a year and a half into eXp, but I had built just enough of an organization. You know, I maybe brought in 10 people who brought in a couple each. So I maybe had 30 something people in my entire group, but it was just enough. I mean, I was probably making $2 or $3 grand a month in passive.
Wow.
And it was just enough to keep the lights on. And I mean, we had just built our first, you know, bought and built our first house. So I'd never owned a house, and we just built a house. My wife was pregnant with our second child. She worked for the real estate team. So, you know, she wasn't over at the, you know, at the Banner Healthcare collecting a big, you know, health benefits package or anything. I mean, we were a commission-based family. And I don't know where we'd be if we weren't a part of eXp at that time, but we probably would have had to move back to Ohio and, you know, worked on the farm or something with the in-laws. But, yeah, so that gave me number one. That was the first thing, is I got to see what life could be like as a 90-year-old cripple. And it's not pretty, right? So take care of yourself. And the power of passive income. So, you know, I literally was, you know, not taking care of myself, and, you know, and just, I mean, nothing too crazy, but again, you know, I was eating like I still played college basketball, but I wasn't breaking 4 or 5 sweats a day like I did in college. So I put on a lot of weight. You know, I was, you know, working, I was stressed out. I just, you know, my mind wasn't right. My body wasn't right. And and I just lost my father that year too. So it was a tough year. I mean, I really had to question a lot of things. You know, you question your mortality, you question what kind of father you are. I couldn't even pick up my own little baby and carry him because, you know, I couldn't even walk. And so it was a really interesting year, but, you know, thank gosh I was a part of eXp and had such an amazing support system and friends like you guys and leaders like Glenn and Suzanne and all those early leaders that helped build this company and the tech guys. And you might even have been in this meeting, but the other thing is I appreciate the power of working from a cloud office because, you know, now I can't even get out of bed. And I actually never forget, Christy brought the laptop into the hospital, set it on my lap, and we did I led the leadership meeting on Friday on a morphine drip. So here I was getting morphine pumped into me, and I'm still running a meeting for eXp. So
that's powerful. So you're able to work without walls. You're able to still have a passive income. And I understand, like I said, not, you know, hundreds or thousands of agents in your group, but just a handful of agents bringing in, you know, extra, you know,
30
figures, you know, 30 to cover the bills. And so now we're talking about having some options, having and being able to have some lifestyle choices. You know, when we're in situations where we may not be able to produce with our own hands and feet. You know, a lot of us like, where's the income going to come from? And that's
I mean, if you think about it, real estate is a very risky proposition. And if you're the sole breadwinner and you're the only one, you know, if you're, you know, let's put it this way, income doesn't come in all the same shapes and sizes, right? Income can come in many different forms. You know, you've got linear income. Of course, you've got hourly salary, you've got commission, you've got contract, but those more basic forms of income, they all have one thing in common, and it's us. And if something happens to us, then the income stops coming in, right? So you're the center of the hamster wheel. You know, if you're not running, the machine's not working. And when I couldn't physically run, it was a big eye opener because, you know, we all think, you know, especially in, you know, as us young kids, you know, we think, you know, oh, I'll be healthy forever. Nothing will ever happen to me. You know, let's put it this way. Breaking my hip was not in my business plan. Right.
Oh,
and,
right. Exactly.
And so that really was the big eye opener. And then once I realized that there were other forms of income, like passive, like equity. Right. Business interests, right. You know, all that stuff, those to me. So you've got transactional income that we just talked about, you know, commissions is part of that, right? You gotta sell the house to get paid. You got to do the deal to get the money. And when the deal stops, the money stops. Well, what's cool about wealth, which I would consider passive and equity, is if you build it and you set it up, you can actually walk away and the money keeps coming in. And to me, that's the greatest secret of wealth building that nobody ever talks about. And, you know, obviously, you know, we all see what's happening out there in the world. There's a lot of talk about, you know, income gaps and all this other stuff. I don't think it's an income gap. I think it's a knowledge gap. And I think most people are not taught or shown the secrets of wealth building. Then there's a second part to that equation. And I don't know if anybody's ever read, in your audience has ever read, or you guys have ever read The Richest Man in Babylon?
Yes, I have.
All right. And it's a classic. It's a classic business book. It's where the phrase, if it's new, it ain't true. And if true, it ain't new, comes from. But one of my favorite parts of that book is there's two men, and they're sitting there, and one's rich, one's poor. And they're having a conversation, and sort of the poor gentleman's, you know, stroking his Babylonian beard, and he's talking to the other guy, and he goes, "What gives? You know, how come you're rich and I'm poor? You know, we grew up in the same neighborhoods, had the same teachers, you know, same family circles. You know, what gives?" And you know, the other guy's like, okay, well, if you reach a certain age in life, and financial security has eluded you, and you've barely been able to eke out a meager existence, it's either because nobody showed you, or you failed to implement the secrets of wealth building. And so, you know, my job is to show people the secrets of wealth building. Their job is to implement it.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you, Brian, this has been powerful. I mean, there's so many just mental. I haven't been writing, but I've been writing in my head. But so many mental notes that I'm taking. I'm gonna be watching this about 3 or 4 more times myself. You know, as I'm jogging and walking the neighborhood. But I mean, just as we wrap up, I just want to say, you know, you just shared so many gold nuggets, and even just through your progression, your life story, I think our audience will learn a lot as far as resolve, as far as toughing it out. And like you said, mindset, you know, in terms of you know, how we have to look at ourselves as a business owner and not just a salesperson. And they will greatly appreciate, you know, what life has to offer, and particularly even, you know, what we talked about as far as Exp Edge, you know, for agents and brokers out there. And so as we close out, is there anything I know you got a lot going on in there.
Yeah,
but
well, and it's funny, I got
informations or anything that you just want to share as we're on the edge of our seat.
Well, I just want to thank you guys, because honestly, we've been friends for a long time. We see each other a couple times a year at the conferences. You know, we're always, you know, just, you know, fast friends and hugs and kisses. But I just love watching how you raise your family. And you are certainly, you know, you're just an amazing example of parenthood, and obviously what you're doing on every level: business, family, life, relationships. I mean, it's just, I mean, if people aren't subscribing to your channel, please subscribe and follow the Houstons. They're unbelievable. You're some of my favorite people in this entire organization, really on the planet. And I really love you guys. I mean, really to the core. And thank you so much for being early adopters and jumping in, because if it wasn't for those early adopters like yourself and some of the people that you brought with you, this company would not be here. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if we didn't get that validation from top performer business entrepreneurs like you in those early years, this company never would have failed.
Wow. We appreciate that. Yes. I mean,
that was really sweet. That was almost choked up a little.
I know.
Next time I'm going to really choke you up.
Made me lose my man card, Brian.
Yeah. Well, and you know, listen, and you know, I mean, we're both, you know, former hoopers, and you know, we got kids that play sports, and you know, I look forward to the days where. And by the way, let me just put a little bow on this whole conversation. So I don't have the blueprint with me, but because of this company, we're now building a 10,000 square foot house on the top of the mountain, up on a golf course, and guess what I'm putting in? An indoor basketball court.
Man. when we come, man, one-on-one, me and you.
So we'll be doing some lessons. We'll get the kids up there.
Hey,
we'll be doing some tournaments.
We're gonna play the 3 with the halftime, Brian.
It's only half court though. So for us older guys, we'll be all right.
We'll play the 3. We'll play the 3 with 3 timeouts.
That's right.
No, but that's awesome. Congratulations. You are living the dream.
Yes,
but I know it took a lot of hard work and stepping out on faith and
Thank
a lot of endurance and perseverance. But I just thank you and Glenn for just having a vision and having the faith and the fortitude to step out on an unknown, on a blank sheet of paper and create something that has changed many lives. And for the next decade, many more lives are going to be changed. And we look forward to being on that ride and bringing many more agents along with us.
Yes. Thank you. And tell Christy we said thank her too.
She's right here. You can tell her yourself.
Absolutely.
Get in here, honey. No, no, actually, she's probably swimming with the kids because, you know how it is.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much.
I love you guys. Thank you.
And this was Brian Culhane, co-founder of eXp Realty, a global real estate company. Actually, we trade on the NASDAQ as well. A big time company. That's right. There it is. I love eXp Realty and we do too. And again, you can listen to this again on our business empowerment series on YouTube, business empowerment series by ACG and Associates. That's where you can find us. Again, be sure to click on the notification bell so you're notified of our future editions. Again, thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. And we'll be talking with you soon. See you in the cloud.
Bye guys. Absolutely. Right. Thank you.